If you had hoped that after losing his bid for re-election, Donald Trump would decide to fade away into the darkness, live a dignified, quiet life, perhaps painting dog portraits off outside of the public spotlight, well, then you don't know who Donald Trump is, and you apparently don't know all of the different tools he has at his disposal to continue to be a daily plague on our lives. But we have someone who's well-versed in all of those tools and is joining us now to discuss. The senior Washington correspondent for Business Insider. Welcome back to the show, Dave Levinthal.
Hey, thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. So, 7 huge reasons Donald Trump isn't going away. That's your article available at Business Insider. So tell us about this. Donald Trump, are these purely hypothetical tools? Are there reasons to believe that some of the things you profiled in your piece are being deployed or will soon be deployed to bring Donald Trump back into our lives?
Most of these are quite real. A couple hypothetical, but most of them are pretty concrete. But they're flying below the radar as we pay attention to obviously the impeachment trial and Joe Biden's administration coming online. Donald Trump has definitely faded away in a very real sense, in that he's not on Twitter, he's not in your face every day, he's not on television, he's not on the radio, and yet he is still there. He's very present and he's waiting to make a comeback of one sort or another. Probably the most notable way that Donald Trump is staging this comeback is through a political action committee that he created in November while he was in the midst of railing against the election results. It's a political action committee called Save America. It raised about $33 million over the final few weeks of 2020, and it didn't spend a cent on anything political. All that money just went to Donald Trump, and it's a kind of committee that Donald Trump himself controls, both operationally and financially too. So he's sitting on a ton of money, and of course he's got 6 other things going on too, which I suspect we're gonna get to very soon.
We will. Really fast on that one. It is still a PAC, so he can spend the money not on future campaigns, right? But on political activity, ads and things like that. And he certainly can't just take the money himself, although in theory he could route it through his various businesses, right?
The rules governing these types of political action committees are pretty loose. So could Donald Trump use this money, for example, to pay for his own travel? Yes. Could he use this money to pay for meals or close consultants or things that could have some potential benefit? Yes. Could he spend this money at his own properties? Yes, he could as well. So there are definitely some kind of personal financial uses that do come in play with this particular brand of political action committee, but he definitely can use this money that he's gotten from all of his supporters that he very much raised in the context of stop the steal, defend the election. These were sort of the come-ons that Donald Trump was using over the last few weeks of 2020 to raise money for this group. And he didn't use it for any of that. Donald Trump ostensibly can use this money for any other purpose though, politically speaking, or kind of on the edge of politically speaking.
Okay, so that first one, that's a big one and could have very significant implications either for his own personal political future or for the launching of a third party, the launching of family members' campaigns. What are some of the other most noteworthy ones? Obviously, people should go and they should read the full article to get your full rundown on all 7, but what are some others that you think are worthy of mention?
One very notable one that has very much flown under the radar is Donald Trump has created a post-presidency office. This is an office that most presidents create after they have left the White House. It's official. He's based it right in Mar-a-Lago where he lives. It has a small staff. It, at least in part, is taxpayer funded. And Donald Trump can use this basically as a megaphone for himself to communicate with the public writ large and otherwise have an official presence that is very much steeped in politics, but still tied to his official role as president of the United States and by virtue of him being a former president of the United States. Now you mentioned the notion of another party. That also too is very high on this list because it kind of cuts 2 ways. Our sourcing, our reporting shows that Donald Trump has very much been considering the notion of forming his own party. He calls it the Patriot Party. Whether that's going to happen, whether that's going to come to fruition, we don't know yet. Donald Trump may not know yet, but it's something that is being considered. Now, also too, there's some very recent reporting about the notion of Republicans who don't like Donald Trump, who are still part of the Republican Party, but are anti-Trumpers. breaking away from the Republican Party, basically leaving the Republican Party to Donald Trump and creating their own third party too. So it's a very fluid situation with a huge financial consideration too, because the Republican Party and Donald Trump together, they have that huge, massive database of all the tens of millions of people who've given money to Donald Trump, who voted for Donald Trump, supported Donald Trump. That is a huge, massive asset that, regardless of what Donald Trump does in the future, he's going to want to control. So a lot of drama on that end too.
So a lot of significant things there. I want to just first of all start with the office, and I want to ask you a stupid question. Obviously, other past presidents have had these offices, and I get that for some of them it could be maintaining correspondence with foreign leaders. It could be charity and advocacy work. For Donald Trump, I sort of assume that there's not going to be as much of that. So what is the difference between his official office and like me hiring a personal assistant? What does it actually technically matter? I mean, you said it was possibly taxpayer funded, so that is a difference. But what are some other differences? What does it mean that he has this office? Why should people care about that?
And you're right, there are government resources that do go into play for an office of this sort. What does it mean? I mean, it gives basically the stamp of the United States of America on this office. It gives the imprimatur of officialdom for Donald Trump, which we are currently right now debating as to whether Donald Trump should be convicted on a count of insurrection. And yet Donald Trump, as we speak right now, if you go to his official office website, there's the seal right there. So as a result, Donald Trump can have this very official platform from which he can send emails, communications, make official statements, and he has done already. It's something to very much keep an eye on. It's in its nascent state. It's just started, literally only a few days old. So where it goes from here, we don't know yet. And again, I feel like a broken record. Donald Trump may not himself know yet, but it definitely bears watching.
Yeah, of course, we haven't had a lot of one-term presidents in recent decades. It's pretty rare. So sort of zooming out a bit, overall, what is your impression of how the way Donald Trump is setting up the next couple of years might compare to some past presidents? And how different, hypothetically, do you think it is than any other one-term president might approach their future career? Understanding, of course, that we haven't had a lot of those.
Everything about Donald Trump revolves around the question of whether he is going to run for the presidency in 2024. Now, if he's convicted in his impeachment trial and then the Senate moves to ban him from ever running for office again, then we're having a very different conversation here, John, but that's probably not going to happen. So the question will still remain, will Donald Trump use these various vehicles as a precursor for him doing another thing which he has, part of our 7-point list, which is re-engage his presidential campaign. It still exists. His committee is still operational. It still has millions of dollars in it too. And you got to remember that Donald Trump, literally on the day of his inauguration back in 2017, filed for re-election to run for re-election. There's only been one president, John, in US history who's ever won the presidency, lost the presidency, and then regained it again. That was Grover Cleveland. So we got to dig pretty deep in the history books to find any analogous situation to the one that we've got right now. And Donald Trump, he'd be what, 77 years old or so when the presidency would be at hand in 2024. Joe Biden's 78, gonna be 79. That's not something that is out of the question at this point.
That's true. Although we do have to bear in mind that, like, chronologically he's 77, but he's got the body and mind of an 87-year-old at least. So I'm gonna ask you to speculate just a little bit based on you've done this rundown of all of these different tools he has. He's keeping a very low profile, other than his very public divorce with SAG. He hasn't really said anything in a few weeks. Do you think acquittal, the next day he's active, he's doing hits on Fox and Friends about it? Or do you think that we've got a couple more months where he's gonna be doing his backroom machinations and things like that, and it'll mostly be quiet? What does your gut say?
My gut says that Donald Trump is going to be a presence in our lives a lot more than he is today, sooner rather than later. And maybe about 1,000 people threw something at their computer screens or their phones right now. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump just simply doesn't have it in his character, doesn't have it in his makeup to go away for a long period of time. For decades, Donald Trump has been all about being in the public eye. So whether he likes it or not, he's gonna be in the public eye for good or for bad. Another one of the reasons he's gonna be in the public eye is because he has numerous points of legal peril that face him. He's got lawsuits, he's got a criminal investigation, he could have multiple criminal investigations, federal, state, local level. And remember that phone call back in Georgia where he tried to pressure election officials there to change their minds and basically change the result of the vote down in Georgia? Well, officials in Georgia right now are pursuing this as a criminal matter. So for years to come, Donald Trump, even if Donald Trump wanted to be out of the public eye, is still gonna be in the public eye because of the reckoning that is going to take place. Put impeachment aside, there's a whole bunch of other things that are gonna be going on, legally speaking, involving Donald Trump for a long time to come, John.
Well, everyone watching this, we've just scratched the surface. So if you'd like to learn more about some of the tools we didn't even mention, let alone go in deep on, Dave's article is available, 7 huge reasons Donald Trump isn't going away, as well as people who've been following the show for a while probably know Dave cranks out a lot of great work very often. Your most recent piece released earlier this morning about apparently thieves robbing political campaigns and how that might have affected Biden. Fascinating stuff. So as always, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.